Hey everybody, good morning. It is Thursday morning, almost 10 o'clock now, and if you are on point and checking into this class, you're probably saying to yourself, Peter, you said this was multiple hours a day, and we haven't even seen the first assignment yet. And to that I would say, you're right. And as I've been recording lectures here and aghast at how Canvas is butchering them, I'm charging right ahead and calling this Lecture 3. This is our first lecture on actual Microsoft Word, and then we are going to wait and see if Lecture 2 fixes itself or if I have to re-record it. But nonetheless, we are going to charge ahead with Word, and you say, Peter, there's no assignment yet. You said it was due on Sunday, and I say, yes, that is true, but there's plenty to talk about with Word, and I've been doing a slow start so that everybody could get the software set up. And can I move myself out of here? Yeah. I'm hoping that all of us have had some time and a chance to get the actual Office 365 software installed on their computer. And if that's a problem for you, or if you're running into something, or for any reason, please come to my office hour at 2, or email me and say if that's not convenient. I would be happy to meet with you another time. And we can share a screen on Zoom, and, whatever the issue is, we could get it figured out. So I am hoping that all 31 students now have Office 365, like the proper Office, not Google Docs or anything, installed. And so you are capable of opening up Word and seeing something that looks roughly like this. So that is my hope, and I am going to charge ahead and do a little bit of a tour that will correspond to the workbook's chapters on Word. And I have plenty to say without going into the workbooks. So, there's so much fun. Okay, let me start off by saying what causes people problems. You saw my picture in the forum. That was literally from 1988. Like, Word has been around for decades now. And as far as I'm concerned, let's put me back up. As far as I'm concerned, like, they pretty much got it right in 1986. Like, everything since then has been, kind of adding shiny buttons and stuff, and adding the internet, of course. But here's what I have to say. If you stay within the constraints of what the program was designed to do, you can knock out all kinds of good work. You can do awesome stuff quickly and efficiently. So what we're looking at behind my big head is, it's not quite a newsletter, it's a document with 2 columns, some images. It's a fairly fancy document. I would say this is the upper limit of what Word is capable of. And where I see people running into problems is when they want to do something fancier than this. If they wanted, design a flyer and, drag things around, Word is just not the right program for it. But if...
Human. Wake up. It is 10 o'clock.
Pardon me. If you can... How do I say it? If you can keep your design to within the limits of what Word is capable of, you're going to be much happier. So we're going to explore how to do most of these things. Okay. So let's flip back here. Wow, that's very different, right? Nice blank page to give your writer some anxiety. So what did I do just now? We have our blank page. You can type into it, right? You probably already know this. It's smart now and it wants to correct all your spelling and grammar. Don't trust that. Don't trust it. Coming from somebody who was raised in a family of grammar nerds, that Microsoft's version of English is not 100% right. But what's our basic setup here? You have not quite menus, you have all of these different panels going on up here. Okay, home. All your very, very basic tools, basic formatting stuff. I spend most of my time here. Insert. I want to insert a page break. I want to insert a table. I want to insert a picture. Okay, all different kind of fancier things to insert into the document. Also under here, header, footer, page number, those are useful. We'll get into those. Equation, symbol, we may or may not get into those. Design, now we're getting fancier. Layout. Here's where things start to get tricky. Okay, some of this stuff is very basic. The margins. Back in the olden days, that used to be somewhere else completely under the file menu. But actually, it makes sense to have a whole tab dedicated to layout. I can say the margins. It defaults on a 1-inch margin all around. You could say that's narrow. You know, you have all these options. This paper, is it 8.5 by 11? Should it be sideways? That's another layout thing. The size of the document itself. It helps to keep in mind that the whole point of Word originally, and usually even now, the whole point of Word is to print something out onto a piece of paper. If you use Word to design websites, you're gonna have a bad time. Pardon the leaf blowing going on in the background. But here under this layout tab, you have all your different sizes of paper. They never include an index card. I always like doing that. If I have a printer in the house, I always find myself wanting to print onto weird sizes of paper. So that is something to explore. And then columns. Here's where we start getting into that fancier stuff. And what I've noticed is people always want to push the boundaries and make it into a page layout program. And I will assert that you want to keep that under control. In a document, you might have 2 columns. That's pretty reasonable. 3 columns. It handles that pretty well. But if you want to do like a flyer, I would urge you to look at Microsoft Publisher. Okay, so what else is under layout? We will be talking about this indent and spacing. References. Now these are some useful tools. You practice them once or twice, and they will come in very handy. Mailings are awesome if you have the patience to deal with it. So let's go back to our basics here. One thing that you'll notice if I'm messing around with these tabs and then I go back and click in the document, then the whole tab like a drawer just slides up again. This over here, you can see it right just barely. This is a pin. Pin the ribbon. If I hit that, I'm kind of anchoring these tabs to be always visible. That's often a good thing to do. Okay, so that's Word. That's our basic documents setup. Tables, charts, page numbers. There's just so much going on. The File tab, the ribbon, document window, and I don't think okay, the ruler is visible here. Okay. Should I get into the ruler? You know, there's a lot of things that seem annoying when I show it to you. But if you're doing a document of any size, these things pay off immensely. These things pay off right away. One of these things is what's going on here with the ruler. Now, you can see a little box, a little up triangle, and a little down triangle. And those are all controlling different things about the document. What's a better way to put this? Many times I see people trying to arrange their paragraphs by hitting a bunch of spaces. If you find yourself hitting a bunch of spaces in a row, that should be a red flag that you are going to cause yourself problems in the future. Why? Because you always want to fiddle with the page layout later on. So the right way to do that is to arrange one or more of these little elements of the ruler. And they all do slightly different things. Like one of them is controlling the main, let me highlight it all. One of them is controlling the main kind of starting point of where everything is. Alright, so, and that's that bottom square. Usually you don't need to mess with that. You set the margin in general. Set the margin of your paper like I showed you before. The next one, I believe, I always have to figure it out. Come back. See, some of them move together and some of them don't. So I'm going to move, okay, it's this top triangle. That's setting up your initial paragraph indent. So if I keep typing, what that top thing did, if I got it right, yeah, that sets up like a normal paragraph, like old school. The first paragraph is indented a ½ inch. Back when I took a typing class, we just used tab to do that. But in Word, you will learn that you're giving yourself a lot of flexibility. If for that page layout stuff, you don't put in characters, but you use the ruler and the document properties to arrange that. Because what it means is, say I've written a 40-page book, and I decided that I don't like a ½ inch indent. I like a ¼ inch indent. I don't want to go through 40 pages and change everything. I just don't. Like, computers were invented to not have to do that boring stuff. So, one of the major good points of Word is that you can change the styling of the whole document, and as long as you have typed it in a flexible way, then any one change that you make goes through the whole document. So here's another way. Here's another little trick. This is called a hanging indent. This is the opposite of our typical paragraphs. This is where the first line starts normally, and then everything else is indented. which is odd, right? But there's times when you want to do that. And then two more things about the ruler. Thing number one is tab stops. If I right click on the ruler, see that little L that it made? I'm setting a tab stop. So by default, if you hit the tab key, it indents, I believe, a 1/2 inch. But I can change that. And this is kind of like a merge of typewriters and a new world of word processing. So if I've set up this tab stop, my first tab is there. And since I don't have any more tab stops, the rest will be every 1/2 inch. But if I want to, I can make these weird tab stops. And this is a quick and easy way to kind of do some page layout without getting all crazy with the spaces. Remember what I said. If you find yourself punching the spacebar a bunch, you're doing it wrong and you're going to regret it. So this is a way of moving text around the page without putting in a table. Tables are also useful, but tabs are kind of quick and dirty, and they're super handy. So, and it's really just you can make a new tab stop by clicking on the ruler. So that's a good thing to know about. And let me flip back here. I want to just do a quick introduction to Word. I want you to be able to practice these things even without me putting up the homework yet. So please do open up the book. Come on. There you go. Please do open up the workbook and read through it, because there's more here than I have time to talk about. But the way that the cursor changes to that little vertical bar, the way it changes to a finger, those are all good little cues. Okay, and then for the most part, I'm really impressed with this book. Actually, I was not expecting it to be this good, but I noticed that the book is pretty interested in these templates. So what did I just do? I clicked on the File tab, and I just showed you all these different tabs, right? And the File tab does something different and crazy. The File tab lets you start a new document, open up a recent document, do like print or save as, various things, but it also has, if you're making a new document, it has these different templates, which I would urge you to be cautious. I don't know, that's probably just my preference. Like, I like to start with a blank document, but these really are time savers. So you can explore those. I'm not going to right now. Can I go back? Oh. I'm going to go ahead and do that File tab and just do a brand new document. Okay. So, say I've made a new document. Let's remember what we're doing here. Say I started writing my novel in this document. One thing that, if it hasn't been ground into you by now, you need to make it a habit. Make it something you do compulsively, which is to save the work that you have done. So right now I made a new document, but I have not saved it. So this is a file. It does not have a name. and it does not have a location. It just has this generic name of document 5. So I'm going to save it with this I covered up disk icon. It's very possible that you have never seen a disk in your life, and yet the icon remains. So you can click the disk icon to save, or do Control S. So here's the deal. The first time that you save anything, this is true in any program, the first time that you save anything, you need to tell it, what do you want to call it, and where do you want to put it. This is fundamental. And my lecture 2 on the file system, it hasn't uploaded yet, but I got into this quite a bit. So when I save for the first time, what do you want to call it? Where do you want to put it? And what do I want to call it? You should know what you want to call it. You should be able to give your documents names that make sense to you. If you just call it whatever random thing comes to your head right now, you may or may not confuse yourself in the future. Like, think about future you trying to find what it is that you worked on today. Like, what is the name that you want to give this thing? If the name that you give it, it doesn't show up on the actual page anywhere. It's really just for you. It's the file on the computer. So give it a name that makes sense. The other part is, where do you want to put it? And so, without getting in too deep, because I will go into excruciating depth about the file system and about how this whole cloud phenomenon makes that all even more confusing. But look at what they're telling you. Choose a location. OneDrive, Gavilan College. Their default is to put it into this weird amorphous cloud thing. Which is okay. But I want to show you what you see if you do this. More locations. And still they have this crazy thing. Let's do this one more button that is browse, and I'm doing it this way. This might seem funny if you're new to all of this, but if you're not new to computers, then now this should look somewhat familiar. This is like the old save thing. Like, I'm seeing something that looks quite a bit like the normal Windows Explorer. You know, this is my computer. This is all my junk on my computer. This is my documents folder. This is all my stuff, right? There's no cloud business. Like, this is safe and normal. So that's if you've been using computers for any amount of time. What I just did, that's how you get to this kind of familiar looking place. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to call it Novel Chapter 1 in my Documents folder. I'll go ahead and save that. Okay. So now that I've done that, my file, it has a name and it has a place. And now, as I keep on working it, I can hit save. I should hit save. I can even hit on the keyboard Control S. Control S as in save. And You know, I'm old school. Some programs are kind of saving as you go. I compulsively save my work every couple of minutes. If it's something that you would be sad to lose, then you better save it. That's just a kind of a fact of life. And if you don't follow that advice, then someday, sooner or later, you will lose some work, and you'll say, "Darn it, Peter was right. I should have saved it. What was I thinking?" So follow my advice and save things as you go along. Do your backups. You will be happier that way. All right. So we are 25 minutes into the first look at Word. I'm still just giving an overview. In the next Word lecture, I can go more deeply into the actual documents that we have for the lab and the homework. But let me talk about a few other things. This kind of relates to what I was talking about in the file system lecture. There's a lot of things I'm going to be showing you that they're little tricks that they work this way in many programs, not just Word. Like when I click, drag, highlight. So when I highlight some text, remember when we renamed a file? Like the text was highlighted. With highlighted text, generally in any program, if I type something, it'll replace what was highlighted. If I hit Control Z or undo, I undo what I just did. If I hit Control X, or I could even right click and say cut, I'm cutting what is highlighted. If I hit Control V, or I could just right click and paste, I can paste in whatever I had cut or copied before. Highlighting text. Highlighting things gives you a way, gives you a way to tell the computer, I want to do something to this stuff. Okay. In Word specifically, we use it all the time. Highlight, make that phrase bold. Right? Undo it. Highlight, make it italic. This is a very common way to do things. Highlight it, make it no longer italic. So, clicking and dragging to select some stuff happens all the time. So we could do all this formatting stuff. I can do change the color of the text to bright yellow. That's unreadable. Let me undo that. Change the color of the text to blue. That's not blue. Undo. So clicking and dragging in order to highlight it's a very common thing to do. Let me just point out, and feel free to ignore this if you're new at this. I'm going to hold on my keyboard, I'm going to hold down Shift and the arrow key. And I'm hitting the right arrow key along with Shift. And I'm able to use the arrow keys to very finely change what it is that I'm highlighting. If I had more text, I could use the up and down arrow too. Like this, this really comes in handy. And you'll see when a document gets crazy and it's hard to get the mouse like exactly where you want to highlight whatever thing with whatever columns. Like when it gets a little crazy, being able to use the arrow keys, and again I'm holding down Shift, and now I'm hitting the left and right arrow. Being able to use those arrow keys to fine-tune exactly what it is that you want, and then do whatever to it. That comes in really handy, and there's plenty of times when you can kind of save the day just by being able to select or highlight exactly the right thing without futzing with the mouse. So that is a little tip. Formatting text. Document templates. I'm not super thrilled about those, but I think we should practice a couple just because they have like a resume and a letter, and I want you to be good enough to make your own documents. I don't think that's too crazy. So I'm gonna cut it off here. To be continued in the next Word lecture, and then today is Thursday. Today I will be putting up the lab assignment that is due on Sunday. So you will have something to practice with, and I'll put up the some starter files, so you'll have some documents to start playing with as well. So thank you. Post questions or comments below here. Let me know what didn't make sense and what did. I know I rushed through plenty, so don't be shy about asking what exactly I was talking about. I will not be insulted by any of that. Thank you for watching, and I'll be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.